Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking into one of the most notorious unsolved cases in American history, the Zodiac Killer.
Absolutely. A figure who terrified Northern California back in the late 60s, early 70s.
And the mystery still hangs heavy today, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
The violence, the taunting letters, the ciphers. It's a case that just grabs you.
Our goal here, though, is to really stick to the facts. There's so much speculation out there.
So much. It's easy to get lost.
Exactly. So we're focusing purely on the established events, the confirmed communications, drawing only from our compiled sources, a professional look at the core case.
Sounds good. Where should we start? The timeline seems logical.
Yeah, let's begin with the first murders definitively linked later on, late 1968.
Right. December 20th, 1968. Betty Lou Jensen and David Arthur Faraday. High school students.
Out near Lake Herman Road, kind of a lover's lane spot, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. Outside Vallejo. They were in Faraday's car.
And the details are brutal.
Very. The attacker used a .22 caliber pistol. Faraday was shot once in the head as he got out of the car.
And Jensen.
She tried to run. Shot multiple times in the back. 5 times, I believe the sources said.
Awful. And at this point, no Zodiac connection, right?
Not immediately, no. That identity, that persona, it wouldn't surface for several months. It was just seen as a tragic, terrible double homicide.
Okay, so fast forward a bit. July 4th, 1969, another attack.
Yes, Blue Rock Springs Park. Also in Vallejo, not far from the first scene, actually.
Victims this time were Darlene Ferrin and Michael Mageau.
Again, sitting in a parked car late at night, just after midnight.
What happened there? It was slightly different, wasn't it?
It was. Mageau survived, thankfully, and gave an account. He said the car pulled up, drove off, then came back maybe 10 minutes later.
And the attacker approached them.
Yes, with a flashlight shown right in their eyes. Mageau apparently thought it might be police at first.
But it wasn't.
Definitely not. The person just opened fire. 5 shots from a 9mm handgun into the car.
Ferrin was killed. Mageau seriously wounded, but survived.
Critically wounded, yes. His survival was crucial for identifying details later.
And this is where the Zodiac starts to emerge, isn't it? This attack was explicitly claimed.
Exactly. This is the turning point. July 31st, 1969. Letters arrive.
Not just one, but 3, right? To different newspapers.
That's right. The San Francisco Chronicle, the San Francisco Examiner, and the Vallejo Times.
And what did they say? They took credit.
They did. Explicitly.
Wow.
Referencing the 2 teenagers last Christmas and the Blue Rock Springs attack. But there was more.
The cipher.
The cipher. Each paper got 1/3 of a 408-character cryptogram. The writer claimed his identity was hidden inside.
And he made a demand.
A huge one. Print the cipher, all 3 parts, on the front page by Friday, August 1st, or he'd go on a kill rampage.
Intense pressure on the press and police, and the symbol appeared here too.
Yes, the crossed circle symbol, his signature really, showed up in these first letters. Its meaning, still debated, but instantly recognizable.
So the cipher gets published, and then more communication.
Just a few days later, August 4th, another letter, this time to the Examiner.
And this one had the name.
It did. It opened with, "This is the Zodiac speaking." The first time he used that name publicly.
Chilling. Establishing the persona.
Absolutely. And it didn't stop there. October 1969, another really significant letter.
This one related to the Paul Stine murder.
Correct. October 13th, a letter arrives at the Chronicle. Inside is a piece of fabric.
A piece of Paul Stine's shirt. Bloody.
Yes. Stine, a taxi driver, had been murdered just 2 days earlier in San Francisco's Presidio Heights. This was undeniable proof the letter writer was the killer.
And he didn't just claim it, he taunted the police in that letter too, didn't he?
He did. He claimed the SFPD could have caught him, that they stopped and spoke to him near the crime scene, but let him go.
That detail, whether true or not, just adds another layer of audacity.
It really does. It suggests he felt untouchable, almost, and enjoyed rubbing their noses in perceived failures.
Okay, let's backtrack slightly then. Before the Stine murder, there was another attack. September 1969. Lake Berryessa.
Ah, yes. Very different circumstances for this one. Broad daylight, September 27th.
Victims were Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard, college students having a picnic.
That's right. And the attacker's appearance was, well, terrifying.
The costume.
The costume. The sort of homemade executioner's hood, dark, with clip-on sunglasses covering the eye holes, and a bib, almost, with the cross-circle symbol on it.
What did he do? Just attack immediately?
No, apparently he approached them quite calmly. Spoke in a monotone voice, Hartnell later recalled. Said he was an escaped convict, needed money and their car keys to go to Mexico.
So a robbery initially.
Seemed like it. He had them use creek-cut lengths of plastic clothesline to tie each other up, although he retied Hartnell's bonds when Shepard apparently didn't do it tightly enough.
And then?
Then, without warning, he pulled out a knife and stabbed them both, repeatedly.
Hartnell survived, but Shepard died later from her injuries.
Yes, she was stabbed, sources say, maybe 10, even 20 times. Hartnell was stabbed multiple times too, but managed to survive.
And the Zodiac left his mark there too.
He did. Before leaving, he walked over to Hartnell's car and drew the cross-circle symbol on the door with a pen. He also wrote the dates of the Lake Herman Road and Blue Rock Springs attacks, and Sept 27, 69, 6.30 by knife.
And then he called the police.
Later that evening, yes. Around 7:45 p.m., a call came in to the Napa County Sheriff's Office. The caller reported a double murder at the lake, described the car, and said, "I'm the one who did it."
Where was the call made from?
A payphone at a car wash in Napa. Police lifted a palm print, still wet, from the receiver.
But it never matched anyone.
Never matched. Another frustrating dead end in terms of physical evidence.
Okay, so that brings us back to the Paul Stine murder just 2 weeks later, October 11th, 1969, in Presidio Heights, San Francisco.
Right, a different modus operandi again. Urban setting, taxi driver.
Stine picked up a passenger downtown. Destination was Washington and Cherry Straits.
And there, he was shot point blank in the head. A handgun. His wallet and keys were taken. Part of his shirt was torn off, which, as we mentioned, showed up in that letter later.
And there were witnesses this time, close witnesses.
Yes, some teenagers across the street saw a man in the cab, appearing to wipe it down after the shooting. They called the police.
They gave a description.
They did, a white male suspect. But this is where that major potential blunder happened.
The radio dispatch error.
Exactly. The initial police broadcast mistakenly described the suspect as black, reportedly due to confusion with another crime or just miscommunication. So officers responding actually passed a white man fitting the teenager's description near the scene, but didn't stop him because they were looking for someone else.
And Zodiac himself claimed in a letter that he was stopped and questioned briefly.
He claimed he spoke with officers, yes. Whether that specific interaction happened is debated, but the fact remains a suspect matching the witness description wasn't detained immediately after the crime.
Another near miss.
Yeah.
And fingerprints were found in the cab.
Yes, fingerprints, including partial palm prints, were lifted from inside outside the taxi. Potentially the killer's.
But again,
Never matched to any known suspect. Another piece of potentially crucial evidence leading nowhere, at least so far.
so Stine is considered the last confirmed Zodiac murder victim. But the communications, they kept going for years, didn't they?
Oh yes. The letters and cards continued, sporadically, until at least 1974.
What were some of the key ones after the Stine murder letter?
Well, November 8th, 1969, he sent the big one, the Z340 cipher. Much harder than the first.
And the dripping 10 card around the same time?
Yes. November 9th, claiming I've killed 7 people. Also a letter with a diagram for a bomb he claimed he'd use on a school bus.
Always escalating the threats.
Always. Then there was a letter near Christmas 69 to the famous lawyer Melvin Belly, again with a piece of Stine's shirt, wishing him a happy Christmas.
More ciphers, too.
Yeah, smaller ones. April 1970, the Z13 cipher, which tantalizingly started, "My name is," but remains unsolved. Another card shortly after. Then the Z32 cipher in June 1970 with a map.
And wasn't there a really disturbing one about the afterlife?
The Littlest letter, July 1970, referenced Gilbert and Sullivan, but talked about torturing his slaves in paradise. Very unsettling insight into his psychology.
And he kept sending things, like Halloween cards.
Sent one to Chronicle reporter Paul Avery in October 1970 as sort of personalized threat.
Then he seemed to branch out geographically, or at least claim to.
In March 1971, a letter to the Los Angeles Times hinted he was responsible for the 1966 murder of Cherry Jo Bates near Riverside City College. He mentioned his Riverside activity.
And the final confirmed, or at least widely accepted, Zodiac letter.
Generally considered the Exorcist letter sent to the Chronicle in January 1974. It was rambling, critical of the movie The Exorcist, and signed off with a new score. Me = 37, SFPD = 00.
So the confirmed attacks seemed to start in 69, but the communication, the terror campaign, continues for years.
Precisely. Which makes you wonder, what was he doing in that time? Were there other victims?
Well, that brings up incidents like the Kathleen Johns abduction attempt, March 1970.
Right. Her story is harrowing. Driving with her baby, flagged down by a man who points out her rear wheel is wobbling.
And he offers to fix it.
Offers to tighten the lug nuts. She drives off. The wheel falls off completely. He reappears, offers a ride.
And she accepts.
She does, feeling stranded. But during the drive, he becomes menacing, makes veiled threats about killing her and the baby.
She escaped, though.
She did. Jumped out of the car with her infant at an intersection and hid in a field. Later at the police station, she saw a composite sketch of the Presidio Heights suspect Stine's killer and reportedly said, "That's the man."
And did Zodiac mention this?
A letter arrived shortly after, mentioning giving a rather interesting ride to a woman and her baby. Seems to corroborate her account, linking him potentially to that incident.
And the Sherry Jo Bates case you mentioned earlier, Riverside, 1966. How strong is that link considered?
It's complex. Riverside PD noted similarities back in '69. A handwriting expert, Sherwood Morrill, who worked extensively on the Zodiac case, believes Zodiac did write confessional notes found related to the Bates murder.
And Zodiac himself claimed the Riverside activity.
He did, in that 1971 letter. But Riverside investigators later focused on another suspect, a jilted ex-boyfriend. And DNA testing in the late 90s, from evidence under Bates' fingernails, didn't match their prime suspect, or samples potentially linked to the main Zodiac suspect at the time, Arthur Lee Allen. So it remains officially unlinked by Riverside PD, despite the Zodiac's claims and Morrill's opinion.
Interesting. Then there's the Donna Lass disappearance, September 1970.
Yeah, another potential link, but even more tenuous, perhaps. Lass was a nurse who disappeared from South Lake Tahoe.
What connects her to Zodiac?
Mainly a postcard sent to the Chronicle months later. It had pasted text over an ad for Lake Tahoe condos, with phrases like, "Sought victim 12." Some interpret it as a Zodiac communication hinting at involvement.
Any other connections?
There were strange, anonymous calls to her landlord and workplace claiming she'd left town for a family emergency, which turned out false. And interestingly, she had lived in San Francisco near where Paul Stine was killed before moving to Tahoe. But her body was never found, and the postcard is debated.
So many threads, so many uncertainties beyond the core attacks. What about the ciphers? You mentioned the Z408 was solved quickly.
Relatively, yes. Back in '69 by a schoolteacher couple, Donald and Betty Harden. It didn't reveal his name, but was full of misspellings and talked about collecting slaves for the afterlife. Standard Zodiac themes.
But the Z340, the big one, that took much longer.
Much, much longer, over 50 years. It was finally cracked in December 2020 by a team of private citizens, David Orenchek, Sam Blake, and Jarl Van Eyck, using specialized software and code-breaking techniques.
And the FBI confirmed their solution.
They did. The message was, well, more of the same, unfortunately. I hope you're having lots of fun trying to catch me. More about paradise and slaves.
Did it offer any real clues?
One interesting bit. That wasn't me on the TV show. This likely refers to a famous incident where someone claiming to be Zodiac called into a live TV talk show, AM San Francisco. The cipher message suggests that caller was an imposter.
Which many suspected anyway, right?
Right. It also mentions he's not afraid of the gas chamber, reinforcing the afterlife belief. But no name, no smoking gun.
Okay, so cipher solved, but still no identity. Let's talk suspects. There must have been thousands investigated.
Oh, thousands. Estimates put it around 2,500 by 2009. Probably more since. It's a huge list.
But one name always comes up. Arthur Lee Allen.
Allen is the only suspect ever publicly named by police, specifically SFPD, though they never had enough to charge him. Robert Graysmith's books really focused attention on him.
What was the circumstantial evidence?
Things like owning a Zodiac brand watch, allegedly being in the vicinity of some attacks, statements witnesses made about his appearance or behavior, owning similar weapons, possible handwriting similarities, a lot of small things.
Where he denied it.
Always denied it. And crucially, fingerprint and palm print comparisons were negative. Then in 2002, DNA testing was done on saliva from Zodiac envelope flaps and stamps.
And
it did not match Allen's DNA, nor did it match a sample from one of Allen's known associates. That was seen by many as clearing him, though some argue the DNA might not be the killer's.
But there were recent claims about Allen?
Yes, a 2024 documentary featured friends of Allen, alleging he essentially confessed to them shortly before his death in 1992. But this is decades later, secondhand and unverified officially. So Allen remains a very prominent but ultimately unproven suspect.
Who else has been seriously considered over the years?
Well, there's Ross Sullivan. He worked at the library near where Sherry Jo Bates was killed, resembled some sketches, and apparently vanished after her murder. But again, lack of hard evidence. And he reportedly had an alibi for Bates's murder time.
Any others with, say, deathbed confessions?
Louis Joseph Myers. A friend claimed Myers confessed on his deathbed in 2001 to being the Zodiac. Myers apparently attended the same high schools as victims Faraday and Jensen and worked with Farron. But again, no tangible evidence to back up the friend's claim.
What about Richard Rick Marshall?
Marshall was a movie projectionist, lived in Riverside in '66 in the Bay Area during the attacks, used a similar typewriter, apparently drew a symbol like the Zodiacs in a letter once, but he denied it, passed handwriting comparisons, and investigators ultimately didn't find a match.
And more recently, Paul Dewar.
Yes, suggested posthumously. Connections drawn include alleged involvement with the Minutemen Group, knowledge of ANFO bombs like the one diagrammed, interest in cryptography, and even similarities in appearance based on his daughter's accounts of potential disguises. But again, proposed after his death, no direct police confirmation.
It's just a revolving door of names, none sticking definitively.
That's the story of the Zodiac investigation, really. Leads pursued, circumstantial links found, but never enough for an arrest or conviction.
So where does that leave us? Decades later, no confirmed killer.
It leaves us with one of the most compelling, frustrating, unsolved serial killer cases ever. The challenges are immense. Now, witnesses have passed away, paperwork might be lost, evidence degrades over time.
But the FBI acknowledged the Z340 solution and said the case remains open.
It does. Law enforcement hasn't officially closed the book. New techniques, like genetic genealogy, always offer a sliver of hope. But it's a long shot after all this time.
So we've covered the timeline, the confirmed attacks, the chilling communications, the ciphers, the potential other victims, the key suspects, all based on the established record from our sources.
It paints a picture of a calculating, adaptable killer who craved attention and played games with authorities and ultimately got away with it.
It really does. And that leads us to our final thought for you, the listener. Thinking about everything we've discussed, the specific nature of the attacks changing, the bizarre costume, the taunting letters, the complex ciphers, the possible near misses, what single aspect of the Zodiac case strikes you as the most perplexing, the most central to understanding why this mystery endures so strongly? Maybe that's the key to why we're still talking about it today.
A great question to ponder. The layers are just incredible.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.